Hello everyone, today we're going to be delving back into the mists of time to the Punic Wars as I check out the new plastics from Warlord Games' epic Hail Caesar. Okay, so I'm going to start things off with the Roman sprue. As you can see, mix of infantry and cavalry. So at the top here we have some velites, light infantry. Then there's also some we've got a bent spear there. We've got some sort of medium cav and some light cav, so two of each. So to make your cavalry stand, you're going to need multiple bases. Then we have the infantry itself, the main line proper. So we have Hestate here, front, middle, or sorry, back, middle, front. Then on the other side we have the Principes, heavily armoured but equipped the same as the Hestate, so sword and pilum, pila for the multiples. And then we finish things off with the Triarii, so falling back on the old classic spear phalanx. People have probably seen this by now, the inserted cutout that allows you to build them 3 ranks deep on the same footprint that the standard base is. So, interesting little bunch. Say, there's in the box you'll get enough to fill out these bases full, but you will need to use multiple bases then. But let's take a look at them built. Alright, so we are back with them built up. We have our formation here. Velites, Hestate, Principes, Triarii, and a little commander. We'll start with the light infantry and move our way upwards and outwards from there. So, not the right base for Hail Caesar, but it was on the sprue. I thought I'd just use it very quickly. They do not have pegs, unlike all the other models, so you can make them a bit more skirmishy, set them where you want. The models themselves are relatively nice, albeit a little flat because obviously plastic moulding. You have to live with the fact that undercuts are not your friend. But for the scale of figure, which is from foot to, oh, I knocked one off there. From foot to top of head is 15 mil, so slightly under that for eye level. They all came off very nicely. There'll be a minimum cleanup to do, not particularly bad mold line wise. They are what they are. Some nice Roman figures. Then getting into our infantry. So, when glued, they will sit snugly together. You can see here that 3 deep rank look. Just pop that. So there is a certain amount of that brick that makes up the center visible, which means get in there with some wash, or depending how you're painting it or priming it, you may want to have those black or dark brown first. But very nice models nonetheless. Relatively plain shield fronts for the scudum. Armed there with pila in hand, no armour. Front rank, off they go. Then the Principes. Again, similar standard, 3 plumes on their hats as per, but slightly more heavily armoured with the chain. But it is a dramatic effect, I do like it. And our veterans, the Triarii. Now, hopefully you can see that they actually have some detail on their shields. So there's little scroll work, I suppose, just setting them apart slightly. If the spears didn't do that already. Again, mail equipped. And if needs be, everybody could fall back behind the veterans, who would then absolutely cream anybody who's coming. If I pop it off the base, I'll show you how they're constructed. So, as you can see from the sprue, they just interlock, allowing you to paint them individually and then glue them together afterwards, and away you go. Cavalry wise, we have our commander. Nice level of detail on him. Good looking little horse. And then we have our noble cav, backed up by some light cav with the felt hats. So you'll need to get multiple sprues to get the full 5 per. But most of the boxes are done so that you're getting 5 sprues, so 20 models, so 4 bases for the cavalry. At least that's the numbers I've seen online. And again, nice figures. Sprue gates on the most part are on the tops of the tails or the back of the rump. There was one fella who had it on a neck, but it means you're taking it off. You're not going to have to worry too much about big sprue pieces that need to be cleaned up, so it should be relatively quick to do. So that is the Romans. Let's take a look at their enemies. Okay, moving on then to the Carthaginians, or the Carthaginian allied force. A lot more going on with this than the Romans. We have, up top we have a commander. We have a mix of both Numidian light horse and Phoenician sort of medium. There are Italian scutari, which you get 3, although you only need 2 for base. So again, multiple bases or multiple sprues will be needed to complete all of your bases. Then we have our spear here, the Libyan spear, some skirmishers, and then the rest of the Numidian horse or the Libyan Phoenician. Regarding back of the sprue, some nice detail. Bit of, there you go, you can see there. Some of the models have solid spaces between their legs. Others, there is a bit of negative space there, which just means you're going to want to darken that in with a wash, just to hide it. But I do like the Italian scutari. All 3 stands are unique, so when you put them together you can swap who's at the front rank and who's at the back rank and get a nice ramshackle look to them. And obviously the spear, the veterans are really nice. That classic mercenary hoplite look to them. Aspis and spear, and away you go. Right, let's see how they look all ranked up. Okay, so there was the sprue. This is them assembled. Take a look at our infantry first. We'll start with the Numidian light infantry. So javelins and shields. Enough to make up a little skirmish base. Nice variety of poses. And easy to get off the sprue. Obviously you have a softening and flattening of the detail on people like this, because he's that way on the sprue, which means we lose some frontal detail, but the face is still well defined, which is the main thing. But there will be a bit of painting required in and around that to hide the flatness. But otherwise, good looking set of skirmishers. And bringing in some anti-Roman allies with the Italian scutari. So the standard 2 ranks deep that we've seen with Waterloo and American Civil War. Nice figures, nevertheless. Good range of movement, I suppose, in them, despite being a stick of figures which are relatively static. They do have a a bit of a look of a sort of a rabble, not an elite military formation. However, they'll give the Romans what for when they need to. And then we have the hoplites coming straight out of Carthage. The serried ranks. That's what ancient warfare is all about. Well, in this case it's Phoenicians rather than Greeks, but hey ho. Nice detail on the armour. Should take a wash very nicely, or even those speed paints, express paints, those sort of things. Should do the trick, I would imagine, at this scale, a treat. So there's our inf. We have our Carthaginian commander. One per sprue, nice crested helm, off he goes. And then he is supported by some of the most feared light cav in the Mediterranean, the Numidians. So again, relatively simple, bit of cleanup to do on them. The shield on this fellow is massively thick because of that undercut issue, which is it's the biggest problem with plastics, is you have to stretch or flatten to account for undercuts, which means you end up with either something that's much thicker than it should be. But overall, nice representation of the Numidian cav. And then the Carthaginian medium cavalry. Good mix of equipment on these, I suppose you would say. So various helmets, plumes, crests, just make them all stand out a little differently. All with a big aspa style shield and then spear. And again, they look great from the side. Little flatter from the front. These aren't as bad as the Numidians, but they all have the shield spear coming across that way, so you're limited again in the poses you can make. But it's not a skirmish game, it is a massed combat game, so there we have it. Now let's have a look at the heavy hitters. Okay, it would not be the Punic Wars without elephants, and elephants there are. So each sprue lets you make 2 elephants for the Carthaginians. We've got the big base there, and then we have body, head, howdah sides. Well, I say sides, front and back actually. And then we have the crew, so we have a couple with Sarissa. There's some mahouts to guide / steer / kill the elephant if needs be. And then we have one javelin wielder and a couple of bow to fill out the howdah. Interesting things to note. No markings on these, but this is the front, and this with the little notch, which you may or may not be able to see, is the back. It's a bit more visible here, maybe. It's very subtle, but those 2 crescents that fit around the elephant do not swap. It is required for the strapping and armour on the back of the elephant themselves. So make sure you watch out for that. But let's take a look at them built. So there we go. The Heffy lumps all built up. They are, for those playing along at home, around 20 to 25 to the top of the elephant, 30 to the top of the howdah, and about 40 to the top of the men crewing said howdah. The heads are interchangeable, the bodies are not, insofar as you can't take side B and add it to side A. As far as I could see, they just didn't seem to sit right for me. So bodies are set, but you can flip the heads round, which means you have an armoured and unarmoured one that you can play with. And then obviously you've got a choice of crew in there that you can mess around with as well. The only issue I ran into, like I said, was these front and backs. So there's the strap there, and there's a little notch, which you can see much better there at the middle of the bottom of that howdah. So even though they look the same, they are not the same. I also find them quite fiddly. There's 2 posts to attach these to that they notch into, but there's no real wiggle room. I actually broke one off on one of them, but it's that small that glue will hold it anyway. But yeah, just watch yourselves when you're putting the front and back of the howdah on. It's the only difficult part of the entire assembly, but they are nice pieces of kit. Everybody likes a nice rampaging elephant, and obviously if you're going to be taking on Rome, you want as many of these as you possibly can. So there we have it, the Carthaginians and the Romans. So there we have it, folks. Really nice plastics. Obviously you're going for a grand scale with anything whenever you're going sort of sub 15 mil. So having a comprehensive set of plastics is a good start. Wish that they matched up scale-wise a little better with some of the other companies out there, because there's a lot of great metals that are already available on the market that would be nice to add into these without having them look too disparate. But if you're just going to be going for a one and done with the Warlord plastic range, then there's certainly enough in there. Being able to get your core infantry and cavalry along with some of your siloi as well will break the back of putting together an epic army for the ancient Punic Wars. Let me know what you think below, if you're planning on getting these or if you've already got them ordered, and where you're going to go from there. Until next time, bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.